Vetiver Capital Management Limited has released a sub-Saharan African report titled At Wit's End. The report looks at the economic health of a number of key sub-Saharan African nations. Joining us to discuss further is Ibukun Omoyeni, who is an economist with Vetiver. Ibukun, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. First off, why is it called At Wit's End? I like that title.
Okay, thank you for having me. So the reason for choosing that title was the meaning of that idiom, at wit's end. It refers to a state of being completely puzzled and perplexed, not knowing what to do. If you look at SSA as a region, you discover that this region contracted the least among many other regions of the world, but yet it's going to be the economy to grow the least. That means it won't recover as much as many other regions. That's because there are not enough vaccine supplies to go round. And another key factor which we see hindering growth in the region is the calls for vaccines, booster vaccine supplies in advanced economies. So for Africa, a lot of economies have been unable to even vaccinate their high priority populations. But with the current call for booster shots in the developed world, that could actually be a double whammy for the region.
Great stuff. Let's look at this. You have a table here where you've listed a number of economies in sub-Saharan Africa. I think it's Angola, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa. Then there's an outlook. Yeah, there it is. So take us through this, if you will. What's your, as far as what you have here, because you've got red colors indicating a deterioration from I guess full year 2020, and then green going in the opposite direction. So what do we have here? Inflation, reserves as import cover, current accounts as a percentage of GDP, and external debt for each of these economies. So how about go ahead, Ibukun.
Okay, well, this table captures both our forecast and that of the IMF. Predominantly, the GDP growth forecast, while that of the inflation, while that of reserve, import cover, current account balance, and external debt to GDP refers to the IMF's expectation concerning these economies. So starting with GDP growth, right, we discovered that many of these economies contracted in 2020, but we believe that in 2021, due to the low base effect as well as the reopening of the economy, we expect to see some recovery in some of these economies. So starting with Angola, we expect to see a minus 0.4% recovery, and that's because the country is still battling with coronavirus. If we discover as at Q1 2020, Angola contracted by 3.4%, and that's because of one, the coronavirus restriction, and number two, the fact that oil constitutes 30% of GDP. So because of the OPEC production cuts, as well as underwhelming production levels in Angola, we expect growth to be subliminal. So looking at Ghana, we see that Ghana has the pace to grow by as much as 4.6%, and that's because the Ghanaian economy is more diversified. We discovered that it grew by about 3.1% in Q1, and it actually has the potential to do better in Q2. So we saw that Ghana is one economy that has seen political stability over the years. Although there was a recent protest, fixed the country protest recently last year, and last month or thereabout, some months ago, and we believe the reason for those protests was, of course, the pandemic. Cast your mind back on October 2020, when Nigerian youth took to the streets to protest with police brutality. We've discovered that this is a trend across all SSA economies. We've seen the EndSARS protests in Nigeria. We've seen anti-government protests in Angola. We've seen fix the country protests in Ghana. We've also seen pro-Zuma protests in South Africa. So we believe this is as a result of the pandemic. The socioeconomic effect is actually falling social unrest in the region. So up to Kenya, we see that Kenyan economy could grow by as much as 7%, but the predominant factor as regards Kenya is inflation. Inflation has been rising. It rose to about 6.3% recently, and that's because the country had to implement fiscal consolidation measures by way of removing the tax relief that were implemented during the pandemic. So that is actually stoking inflation in Kenya. So up to Nigeria, we expect Nigeria to actually grow by as much as 3.3%. But recall that Nigerian economy grew by 5.0% in Q2, which was above our in-house forecast of 4.5%. We believe that outcome was due to the recovery in several sectors of the economy, including trade. And we saw that trade contributed about 500 billion to GDP growth compared to ICT, which did about 150 billion. So we see that with more recovery in trade for Q3 and Q4, we could see Nigeria achieve a 3% growth, but that's going to be one-off growth. It's going to slow down in 2022. So down to South Africa, the government has been releasing a lot of support, despite the fact that there have been series of lockdowns. Although the economy was recently rebased, we could actually expect to see changes in the historical and the future numbers. But what we could see going forward is that we could see a deterioration in the debt to GDP ratio. The debt to GDP ratio has been at a high of 80% thereabout. Debt now, I mean debt to GDP has been very high, but with the rebasing of the South African economy, we could see that number come down. So that just sums up our expectations for the 5 economies we cover.
Great stuff. Ibuku Omoyeni, economist with Vetiva Capital. Thank you so much for taking us through that report. At Wits End, looking at sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you so much, Ibuku. All right, so to Nigeria, largest economy in Africa. In the wake of President Buhari's cabinet shakeup that saw the ministers of agriculture and power relieved of their duties, well, Nigerians are taking a deeper look at the impact of the cabinet. What gains have been made in agriculture? What gains have been made in power? Are Nigerians feeling the productive output of the various ministries, departments, and agencies that are tasked with shepherding Africa's largest economy? Joining us to discuss further is Omotola Abimbola, investment analyst with Chapel Hill Denham. Omotola, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning to you.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Let's put up this chart here, Tola. We have outputs for agriculture. This is from when the minister was appointed to when he was relieved. So Q4 2019 through Q2 2021. Tola, what has held the sector back in your view from growing further than what we see here?
Well, I believe the chart says it all. Growth has been very underwhelming in the sector over the past couple of quarters. If you trace it back to Q4 2019 up to date, on the average, the sector has grown at about 2.5 to 2.7%, which is quite underwhelming, particularly when you compare it to a historical trend. Before now, the agri sector is one sector where you are guaranteed year in, year out to report more than 3% GDP growth. In fact, over the past 3 decades, on the average, that sector has churned out more than 3%, more than 4% actually in annual GDP growth. So clearly, we are seeing an underwhelming period for the agricultural sector. And I would say that one of the key reasons why we are seeing this is the security challenges that we are seeing across the country. So if you look at the major agrarian communities in Nigeria, particularly in the middle belt, or what we now call the north central region of the country, as well as the northwest region of the country, we have seen incessant pastoralists and farmers clash, affecting crop production, also affecting livestock production as well. In the northwestern part of the country, we have seen, a lot of challenges relating to, bandits, wiping away, villages and towns that are producing, food for the country. So clearly, I think the security challenges, I think they are very, very central to what we are currently witnessing in the agriculture sector.
Thank you for that, Tola. Let's also look at inflation. I guess also under the minister's tenure. How does the ministry rein in inflation as far as food inflation is concerned, Tola?
Food is very, very tough. Food inflation is very, very tough. Currently we are seeing food inflation in Nigeria, above 20%. But I would say that Nigeria has never really, enjoyed a very long period of stability in food prices. And because over the long term, 20, 30 years, we have seen food inflation rates, being in double digits. It has averaged, more than 12% per annum over the past, 20, 30 years. So I believe that regarding, food inflation, it's a combination of some structural, long-term challenges, as well as some cyclical factors. The cyclical factors, we are very clear about that. Currently, we are witnessing a period of macroeconomic instability and weak availability of FX, which has had an impact on imported food inflation, and also on domestic food supply. But beyond that, we also have some age-long structural issues affecting the agriculture sector, particularly, agricultural productivity. So while I was answering your first question, I talked about the fact that agri sector has recorded a growth above 4% over the past 3 decades. But the part I didn't mention is that growth has been mainly driven by essentially, increase in land cultivation. That is the area that we are cultivating has been increasing. Meanwhile, we have not done enough work to lift the productivity of the agriculture sector. For instance, if you look at cereal, which is cereal and grain, which are very popular, staple food, here in the parts of the world. On the average, Nigerian farms churn out about 1,300 kilogram per hectare, compared to the global average of about over 4,000, kilogram per hectare. So clearly, we are not getting, enough out of the resources that we have, and a lot more work has to be done, to solve that problem. We have to invest a lot in infrastructure, on cold chain infrastructure particularly. We need to invest, in road, particularly, on the roads that are linking farms to the urban centers. We need to invest in rail transport. And, of course, there are also some low-hanging fruits that we also, perhaps, could do a lot more work on, particularly on the availability of FX for the importation, of food-related, items. So currently, I believe that, the next Minister of Agriculture and perhaps the political authority, they need to have like a consensus view with the central bank on what to prioritize when it comes to FX in Nigeria. And I believe that food should be a priority, compared to every other item.
Only got a couple minutes. Very quickly, touch on power. Same question. What's held power back? What can the ministry do to fix things in power?
For the power sector, it's a problem of liquidity and inability to monetize, monetize the sector in terms of the value chain, partly because of large losses in the sector. Over the past couple of years, I think we have seen a lot of initiatives, to help us with this. Last year, we saw the, Ministry of Power implement the service-based tariff structure, which has led to increase in revenue and liquidity in the sector. So that's a very good one. We've also seen, the national metering plan that's currently ongoing that will ensure that we close the metering gap in Nigeria, today, to less than 10%, and that will go a long way in reducing the, the aggregate technical and collection losses that we are currently witnessing, across the sector value chain. So I believe the next agenda, or I would say the agenda for the next Minister of Finance, is to perhaps, continue along this path of ensuring that we have more liquidity in the power sector value chain, and of course that we have, much more flexibility in the pricing of power tariff as well.
Fantastic stuff. And as far as them being able to make positive gains, both in agriculture and in power, are you positive that we can see that happen, I guess, towards the end of, between now and when the administration is concluded?
Never say never.
Right?
I'm pretty confident.
Yeah? Optimism is always great. Omotola Abimbola, investment analyst with Chapel Hill Denham. Thank you so much for talking to us about agriculture and, of course, about power. Again, President Buhari shuffling his cabinet and replacing those two ministers in agriculture and in power.